Powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. Now, live from inside the Matt Black Kia Studios, it's Football at 4.
And Football at 4 is powered by the Inside the Birds podcast. Adam Caplan's here today from InsideTheBirds.com and the Inside the Birds podcast. And it has become a Friday tradition. Live on the air, the injury report is released. And we now know Jake Elliott will not play. Avonte Maddox will not play. Jordan Mailata is doubtful for the game with that shoulder injury. Patrick Johnson is also out. Boston Scott is questionable. It looks like Isaac Seumalo does not have a designation, and neither does Darius Slay. So let's bring Adam Caplan in. That's the injury story there. Adam, as he joins us now on Football at 4 here on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN. Mike Gill, Ryan Rothstein sitting in for the PT today. Adam, happy Football at 4, man. How are you?
Guys, I am well. I'm doing okay. So we had reported this morning that Avonte Maddox was not expected to play. In fact, my words would be shocked if he played based on our intel. We're going to have another update on Thursdays. Sunday morning's pregame show, guys. So we look forward to doing that. And we also have another update. Moshe had a great update, really information on our show this morning. We're going to have another update on him. Give further word. Exclusive for people who watch our pregame show, and that's it. I mean, there no surprises, quite frankly, on their injury report. We kind of knew about this. Now, the only thing is we don't know about Boston Scott. I think Isaac Seumalo he's going to play, as our understanding.
Wow.
We just don't know about Boston Scott. That's the one.
But yes, Mailata is listed as doubtful for the game, so you anticipate that he will play?
No, he's not playing.
Oh, okay.
We're told he's not. Yeah, Jeff had it nailed it. He said he'd be also shocked if he played. He's not expected to play, is what we're told.
Okay, all right. I thought you said that he will play. So let's talk about that. Jake Elliott's out. We know they have another kicker. Cameron Dicker is in. He will kick in the game.
Yep.
Mailata is out. Will Dillard play, or do you think Driscoll will play left tackle?
Driscoll, we'd expect the same as last week, that he plays left tackle, barring something unforeseen. That our expectation is that Driscoll should be back at left tackle. He did it last week. Why would they change that up? I just don't see anything else they could possibly do. They don't have much of a choice right now. They're not moving Lane Johnson to left. They've never done that in the past. Lane doesn't. We've been told several times Lane really wanted to stay at right. Suapet, if something happened. Oh, by the way, Dickerson is not on the injury report this week. He was actually not on it with a foot injury. That's interesting.
Right. I know that Dillard practiced, but is he ready to play, Andre Dillard?
They have till 4 p.m. Eastern tomorrow to make a decision.
Gotcha.
What will happen is this. Because they have to fly, they fly early afternoon tomorrow. He'll be on the flight if they think he'll be available. If he's not on the flight, he's not playing. They will not activate him by 4 p.m. Eastern. Pretty easy call for them. It's all conditioning. The injury is healed as we understand it, and if they think his conditioning's good, he'll be a backup. To answer your question, I would be shocked, almost shocked, very surprised. Not that Dillard would be activated, but if you're going to activate him, do you think he's ready to play a full game? You got to be. The Eagles have to know that, Mike, going into this game. If they decide to activate him, because look again, like I'll give you an example. Nyheim Hines, the running back who started for Jonathan Taylor, got hurt. Within the first 5 minutes of the game. They had enough running backs up for the game last night. Deion Jackson did a great job. They wouldn't have Jackson up unless they thought he could handle a lot of snaps. And he was the backup last night, as a matter of fact.
Cardinals, they've got some key guys on their list as well. What are the Cardinals' injury report looking like?
Yeah, Mike, it's bad. They are one of the most banged-up teams in the National Football League. So here's what we're told. If you look at their injuries. Marquise Brown, Hollywood Brown, bargain setback will play. It's a lingering injury. A.J. Green, they're not sure. He didn't play last week. He's probably going to be questionable. I haven't got the injury report yet, but our understanding is he probably would be questionable heading into today's practice. The biggest issues they have with the offensive line are at left guard Justin Pugh, a Philly native, with an elbow injury, and Roddy Hudson, their star center, has been around a long time. They don't know if they're going to have either of those guys. And then Matt Amendola from North Penn High School in Lansdale, he'll be the kicker for Matt Prater, who will now play with a right hip injury, which is lingering. They think they're going to have J.J. Watt with a calf strain, and they don't believe they'll have Rashad Lawrence as one of their starting defensive tackles, who's a good run guy. So that would be good news if he can't play. Again, they practiced later today, so I don't know if he practiced yet.
All right, Adam, let's get into some of the matchups. Cardinals offense, when they have the ball, Kyler Murray. This is definitely the most athletic and mobile quarterback the Eagles have faced. Goff, Wentz, they hold the ball. Obviously, Cousins, another guy who doesn't move very well. Lawrence, probably the best of those four, but none of them move like this guy. So how does Murray match up with this front seven?
And, Mike, that, as you just laid it up, that is exactly the point. We have no idea what Jonathan Gannon's going to do to stop Murray. You could use a quarterback in practice all that you want, but the fact of the matter is it's really hard to duplicate. Gardner Minshew could scramble, but no one can move like this kid. So it's going to be hard. I mean, look, they don't have a lot. They're having trouble scoring. They're below average scoring team. Their offensive line is all veterans. They're not athletic. The Eagles should certainly have an advantage in this game, Mike. He is the guy. They don't run the ball well at all with Connor and Eno Benjamin. Hollywood Brown's the guy you got to stop in the pass game. Obviously, they'll go a lot of 12 personnel, believe it or not. They started changing that up. Zach Ertz and Trey McBride, their second-round pick out of Colorado State.
Obviously, you talk about all the injuries. The guy that I'm worried about, Zach Ertz, as you just hinted at, if I'm Cliff Kingsbury, am I trying to get him matched up in the slot somehow with Josiah Scott? Am I trying to find ways to get creative to make the Eagles match up with him difficult?
You would hope that it would not be Josiah Scott. You would hope it would be a linebacker. That's typically what you do is, unless you would have a safety on him if you've got a guy who could cover. Like you can move Chauncey Gardner-Johnson because he's covered tight ends before. That's not a problem. Who's a big safety at over 6 feet. But you don't want Josiah Scott on him. Now, yeah, obviously you would try to do that for the Cardinals, but the Eagles probably will not let that happen, I would think. And probably have I would think not that Zach's not a good athlete, so you don't really worry about him moving, but he's a great route runner. Kaiser White, you might put him on there. Kaiser White, by the way, played very well last week. He's an excellent cover linebacker, no doubt about it.
And then, you look at the Eagles front. They've been having a field day. They lead the league in sacks, Adam, as you know. But how do they match up with this offensive line?
Yeah, be careful when people throw that number out there. They got 9 in one game, so obviously that skews everything. I kind of ignore that stuff.
That's a good point.
Yeah, it's strictly about pressure numbers. The pressure numbers, I'm told, are top 10, like top 7. That's way more important. Sacks are just individual plays. I think too many people get lost with that stuff. The Eagles should dominate. Their line, if their line does not dominate, then I think Jonathan Gannon did not come with a good game plan. They're so not athletic, the Cardinals. It's just, again, Murray is a guy who moves a lot. The Eagles match up very well. Obviously, not having Maddox is a problem. You saw last week they got lucky because it rained, and they got beat. Agnew crushed them, and Josiah Scott was on him a bit, so that would worry me a little bit.
Adam Caplan, Football at 4 from InsideTheBirds.com and the Inside the Birds podcast. Don't forget Inside the Birds pre- and post-game show on all their platforms. Let's go to the other side of the ball. When the Eagles have it, Jalen Hurts, he's going to be looking at this Cardinals defense, which, I don't – Budda Baker maybe could be the one guy on that defense, but does this defense scare you, Adam?
No, but I'll say this. They're very stingy. They're not the most talented group, Mike. They just don't give up a lot of points. They've given up 3 passing touchdowns to the running backs. Clyde Edwards-Helaire got him for 2. Christian McCaffrey got him for 1 last week. But where they're really bad, and this could be a Dallas Goedert game, they're the second worst team in the National Football League covering tight ends. They give a ton of production, lots of yards and touchdowns. This could be a Goddard game. They're decent at corner. They're not great, but they play with a lot of discipline. I still think, despite the stinginess, I mean, you got to look at who they've played. The one good offense they played absolutely crushed them. The Chiefs had 5 passing touchdowns in week 1. In fact, I joked on our show today, had the game close. I'm not joking with this. I thought Mahomes was so good he could have had over 500 yards. They had no answer for him. Not that anyone does, but the Eagles could name their tune here. I've got them scoring 30 points in this game.
I like that. Name that tune, Eagles. How about running back? If they want to name the tune Miles Sanders, is that can they run it 50 times again?
Yeah, well, they don't have to because the weather's not going to be bad. The Eagles, these are one of these teams that could do it any way they want. They've done that. They're definitely a passing team. Let's not make any mistake about it. Hurts's pass attempts are way up. Always judge it. This is a good pro tip I got from Joe Barron, former Eagles president. You always judge a team by the way they call plays in the first half. The Eagles are a heavy pass team in the first half. Last week, they ran the ball 50 times because they had to. It was very difficult to throw. And it just so happens they have the best offensive line in pass protection and one of the best run blocking lines. So they can do it any way they want. And Sanders has done great. He's headed for a breakout season. He's been very good at times over his career, but this is his most consistent. And then now it's interesting. So we don't know what they're going to do. If Boston Scott could play, we don't know if they'll have Trey Sermon up. Sermon looked really good last week, by the way.
Yeah, had a couple tough carries. And then how do you see Adam? You mentioned the Eagles want to be a passing team. They got two great targets, really 3 or 4. Goddard, Watkins when he's going. But Brown and Smith make it go. What's the matchup look like in that secondary?
Yeah, I would say what it is if you look at the Cardinals secondary, Marco Wilson's a guy who was benched before, and he got his job back because Antonio Hamilton, who beat him out, unfortunately had a freak accident at home. He had burns to his hands in a cooking accident, apparently. Hamilton's starting to practice this week. I don't know that he's going to play, but they're 34 front. They will blitz under Vance Joseph, who's a very good D coordinator.
They blitz more than anybody in the league, by the way.
Yeah, he does. He's very aggressive because they have to. Although Detroit blitzes like crazy, probably too much. You mentioned Buda Baker is good. Jalen Thompson's very good. Their safety. Byron Murphy, number 7, who's their best corner. They have okay depth. Trayvon Mullen got hurt, who's their third corner, who got hurt in yesterday's practice. I don't know if he's going to play. So, to me, the Eagles will go heavy 11 personnel. I expect that to happen, and I expect them to attack. I would expect them now that we have good weather. You don't have to worry about weather. What you worry about, by the way, as Andy Reid pointed out, it was a disgrace. Their turf in week 1 was resodded, and Andy swears that he was very convinced that the 2 injuries that they suffered, the kicker Butker, who injured his left ankle, still is not ready from that game. And their first-round corner was put on IR with a hamstring injury. He's pretty convinced that it was because of the grass in State Farm Field.
And then, obviously, when push comes to shove in a lot of these games, it's one in the trenches, Adam. The Eagles' trenches should probably win this battle.
Yeah, and that's where it is. And look, the craziest thing is about this game, which we didn't mention, it's the battle of the backup kickers. Both teams will have backup kickers in this game. Dicker, the kicker, will be the kicker this week, Cameron Dicker. And I had to say it, why not? And everyone's calling that on Twitter. And then, Matt Prater's out, and as I mentioned, Matt, not Danny Amendola, the North Penn high school kid from Lansdale, PA, will be the kicker there. So that does matter. But the Eagles are so much better, Mike, on both sides of the football up front. I just don't see them struggling at all.
Adam Caplan, the Inside the Birds pregame. Greg Cosell will be a part of that. Of course, Trey Thomas on the postgame show. You can watch that on all their YouTube platforms and, of course, their social media platforms. That will be at 10 a.m. on Eagle Game Day, and then the postgame show with Adam, Trey, and Jeff Mosher. Back with football at 4 next week right here on the Sports Bash 97.3 ESPN. Adam, thanks, bud.
All right, guys, thank you.